Through Adversity is sponsored by MVS Autos, keeping you on the road. MVS Autos offer a range of vehicle services including MOT, servicing, repairs, welding, diagnostics, aircon and much more. Based in Wormley, serving all of Bristol and surrounding areas. For 10% discount, quote TAP MVS when booking. Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of Through Adversity with myself, Rich, and Chris. And before we start, before I squeak, I want to thank our sponsor, MVS Autos, based in Wormley, Bristol, who are an amazing garage and do all the work on my fleet of vehicles. So I want to big them up thank them for all the stuff they do and for getting this show off the ground. And today, with a bonus episode, we're going to be talking about our own adversity of what we sometimes face, and we all face a little challenge on a daily basis. Getting up is an adversity for some people, isn't it? getting out of your bed. And then we'll look at maybe how we're going to talk about what it's like to maybe live or function, to work in a potentially toxic environment. So, Chris, how's your week been, or couple of weeks been, in fact?
Yeah, I mean, mostly good, but I'm supposed to be starting 2 new jobs, and I'm waiting for my fucking DBS checks to go through. And one of them is an enhanced one, and I've been waiting for about 4 weeks now, 5 weeks for it. And that's literally all I'm waiting on to start a job. And I've been unemployed for a while because of my health. And I'm finally ready to go back to work. And then I'm just waiting.
So the DBS check, it is an absolute nightmare. I mean, it's got to be done.
Yeah,
I get that, and the DBS falls into pretty much any category these days, doesn't it? If you're working with people, especially, it's DBS this, DBS that. And on your DBS check, is anything on there that's going to worry you?
Yeah, my actual bodily harm conviction.
Oh,
but
didn't we call it anal breaching?
Anal, yeah. Well, like my employer, because of where she is in the hierarchy, she knows about it. So I declared my ABH conviction on my NHS application form, and then so she managed to communicate it to me without saying it, that you're fine, don't worry about it, basically, because it's a long wait. And she also communicated to me that because some people because it takes so long, sometimes they end up hiring somebody else in some of these companies.
Well, is that a genuine concern that could have potentially happened?
Yeah. It's like reading people's social media posts and stuff, because the DBS has taken like 6 weeks. And they're like, oh, fine, we'll go for somebody that's got the DBS update. And then they get the job. But they said to me, like, no, it's fine, we're waiting. We just got to play the long game and wait. So they reassured me for that.
That's a relief.
And I think that's part of the adversity thing, is making sure that you communicate to the people around you, because my head was spinning for a bit, and then I just thought, like, you know what, I'm going to communicate with them, I'm going to email them. Well, they communicated to me first and said, have you heard from DBS yet? And I said no. And then so I engaged in a conversation with them just to try and let them know that I'm excited to start the job, and then I will chase it up with the DBS people, which I did. And then the worst thing is that there's no recourse. You can't do anything. It's just like, it's sitting with the police station. They've got to double check all the info. It's basically sitting on someone's fucking desk, just waiting to be countersigned. And this section could take up to 60 days.
That's a baller. And you're right about sort of reaching out to people, because isn't it insane how you can build this monster in your head and get really stressed out about stuff, and then and in the reality, nothing's changing. The only thing changes is knowledge. So you ring someone up and say, look, hey, what's going on? And they say, yeah, you're fine. All of a sudden you feel immediately better.
Yes.
Yet nothing has changed, nothing physical. And that says it's purely in there, doesn't it? Purely in your head.
Exactly. Like I found over the years that most of my problems, if I look back on them, were just me spinning in my head, getting that, like, my head full of bees, basically, and not communicating to people. And then I get in a shitty with myself about it. And then as soon as I communicate to somebody, it just fizzles out. I'm immediately fine. Order's restored.
Yeah, I had something the other day, and I won't say exactly what it was, but it's because how my mind works with regards to being involved in all that years ago. And something had gone wrong. And in my head, I thought it was someone had a deliberate attempt to sabotage me,
Mm.
and I think no, that was a stupid, that was a daft. They haven't done it. This is the real world. People don't do that. And I'm thinking, well, no, they do. And I was absolutely an absolute bit. So I was messaging the person, like, what's going on? What's happening? What's going on here? And they got back and they explained what had happened. And it was such an innocent thing. And I thought, but immediately, every sort of anxiety that I had was leveled. It was gone within seconds. It was like, oh, but I had that sense of euphoria then. I had the high. And it just shows how much your brain can trick you into getting quite unwell.
And how much of your past experience influences what you do now?
Yeah, because let's face it, if you've lived a life a certain way, whichever you've done, if you're living in a life where statistically speaking, it's quite likely things are going to go wrong, then you're expecting it to go wrong nearly all the time, and it's very hard to undo that. To not expect that because it's already there. It's kind of like a safeguarding you build in, isn't it? You think, well, okay, better be cautious about this. This is going to get me. So it was like it sucked, but it was all right in the end. It was fine.
It was all sorted.
Yeah, it was, mate. It was. So what about your job? So looking at that, how do you manage then? So you're kind of in no man's land.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that within your head? If you're sort of got these head full of bees buzzing around and you're going nuts, what do you do?
Well, the good thing is that that by communicating with the organisation, that settled a lot of my anxieties. The other side of it is obviously financially, just like there's no money coming in, I'm not entitled to benefits, and then and everything's a drain. Like I just forked out 1,500 quid for a car so that I can actually get to this job. So that's a bunch of savings gone. And then also being autistic, I need structure around me. But thankfully, my partner's really supportive, but also I base a lot of my routine around her. So when she gets up in the morning, I get up in the morning, and I make sure that I build a routine around that, and then I just kind of find little things to latch onto to get me off my ass and doing something. It gives me little bit of structure and just kind of anything, even if it's feeding the cats, just something in my day that's regular that I've got to do every single day. And and also just if my head just starts to spin, I can actually go to my partner and I say, am I being a fucking idiot about this?
Yeah.
I said this before, before we recorded, I used to have a guy at work that when I was starting to do that, he'd say to me, oh, Chris, you got your silly head on today.
So how important is that structure to you then? Is it a massive deal?
Massively. It kind of affects everything. Just like my whole motivation, just like my ability to get out of bed, ability to keep the routine and keep that sleep cycle going. So I make sure I go to bed at the same time every night. Even if I don't go to sleep, I need to be in bed at 10. And then, so then it doesn't matter if I'm awake till 4 in the morning. I have to be in bed to make sure that I keep that cycle.
I find that structure for me is crucial, and the trouble is with me, if I don't have a set plan, my whole day goes awry. And if I don't start my day off in a certain way, or don't do certain things by a certain time, my day I've lost the whole day. And for me, it's crucial, certain things. So it's about having that. It's little victories, isn't it? Having a little goal, just achieve something in small bites and small doses, and you can sort of find yourself. You knock on through the day, and you find out you've had a productive day in the end.
Yeah. How do you deal with it? Say, you build that structure in the plan. How do you deal with it? If it kind of goes awry, if something changes.
I find it quite difficult in some ways, but if I've got I normally got some sort of backup plan. So if I go, let's say for example, the sort of two things I focus on during the day is work and me. That's the thing I'll worry about. So what I'll do is I'll focus on me in the first hour of the day. It's getting up, have a coffee, do some social media, and then go do my fitness. If I've done the fitness and I do it to the level I want to do it, then I find that work slots in quite nicely. I've then got a plan, right, okay, let's see what, but because I'm spinning so many plates, I'm finding myself sort of buzzing around between these plates, keeping them spinning. I'm not really achieving as much as I could do. So, but there are other things I'm trying to plan to reduce the small plates and introduce a couple of big fuck off ones and just spin spin a couple of big plates rather than about 20 little ones. So I find I can adapt to something else. What I find my weakness is picking up my phone and start scrolling on social media. That is my weakness. And I think now that the weather is going to beginning to improve, I think that won't be an issue. I'll be more like going out for a walk. If I find that something hasn't worked out or the day ends up being a free day, I'll go for a walk. And I can then use that walking as my own personal therapy and a way to sort of, I can put plans in place. I can start thinking about things more. So generally speaking, if something goes wrong, it goes tits up.
Yeah. I find the walks are actually a big thing. I haven't been walking as much the last couple of weeks, and I kind of feel it. Like it's just, it gets you out of yourself. I like to go for a lunchtime walk, and I think when I start this job, I'm going to spend my lunchtime just going out for a walk and just getting out of the office, because it just clears out the cobwebs and helps you center yourself, ready for the afternoon. But
is all of your, let's say, your commitments, your responsibilities, are you all sort of fairly in a close proximity? Is it quite easy for you to manage everything under one roof, sort of thing?
Yeah, basically. That might change with the job, because I'll be driving around basically the northeast to different offices. But I have total control over that. Apparently, there's one office I have to drive to. It's about a 40-minute drive. I have to go there at least once a week. But on the other 2 days, because it's going to be part-time, I can go wherever I want. I can even work from home. And then I've got the podcast stuff, and then I've got my so I'm going to start a delivery job, which I'm waiting for the normal DBS on, so I'll be out doing deliveries. And again, I have total control over that. I don't have any other family. I don't have kids with any other women. It's just me and my partner. I mean, I hope I don't. That'd be a fucking shock at this point.
Well, they'll soon find you if they have.
Yeah.
I think that's my dad.
Yeah, he looks a bit like me.
Yeah, he's a mong as well.
Yeah, exactly. He looks a bit tarded.
He's a bit tarded. I find my structure is difficult because everything I have is so far away.
Okay.
Nothing is. I'm based at home. I work from home most of the time, but a lot of things I have to do will require me to take a trip or a journey of some kind, whether see my son's girlfriend, work. It's always going to be a journey. But I find using that travel time very useful to monopolize on getting some business done, getting some phone calls made up, or just listening to podcasts. But yeah, it's hard. So facing difficulties. What's your sort of top tip then, apart from structure?
I think the first thing I would say is to take, like, whether it's metaphorically or literally, take a step back and just remove yourself from the immediate situation. Because I find that if say, for example, I've just read an email that's really fucked me off. If I'm sitting there at the computer and I'm trying to do something, I'm not going to get anything done. Leave the computer, leave the room, go for a walk. Even if it's just for a minute, go make a cup of tea. Come back to it, revisit it, and you'll be calmer. The second thing I would say is communicate it, but be careful who you communicate it to, because some people are fuckheads. Make sure that you communicate the information properly with someone that you trust.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think is having someone to talk to, and everyone gets stressed out. And I know I use this example as the chap that we spoke about earlier. So he was on social media, the older chap, talking about his reel of wire. And he'd been clearly reflecting over his life. He's found this roll of wire in his garage or his shed, and it's nearly gone. And he was saying about how he's had this thing for 40 years, and his wife, and he was crying. He was clearly in an emotional state where he was just thinking about, my God, my life is almost gone here. And that roll of wire sort of was, I guess, was symbolic. And his wife completely just disregarded that. Yeah, he was opening up to her. So it's about having the right people. And sometimes the person that's closest to you might not be the right person to share with. It makes it really difficult.
I think I've got the clip.
Have you? Oh, let's have a look. So let's have a look at this then. We're going to check out some technology on Riverside.
Yeah, we're going to give this a go.
Oh, look, it's Chris's dick pics instead.
Shit, I forgot to put them on. Right, here we go.
Came out to check on you.
Huh?
What are you doing? Thought you were working.
I'm looking at this.
What is it?
It's it's wire. It's a spool of wire. And I'm almost out of it. Can you see the spool of wire?
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost out of it.
Okay.
And I've had this spool of wire for like 40 years. I bought it like this it's not a piece of, a long time ago, but it's like 40 years of my life is in the wire that's gone. Does that make sense? This is what's left. Does that make
I'm
sense?
sorry to hear that, and it's sad for you, but you're wearing your Jets hat, and I'm a little concerned right now that you're wearing your Jets hat. I thought that's why you were crying.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, so
Yeah, with that, right?
Mm.
She's just lost him forever now with
Yeah.
regards to him being able to open up, because that might have been one of the first times he was genuinely giving her his honest opinion about how he was feeling, about how he's seen his life, and she just took it quite light, didn't she? Took the piss almost. And that's the thing about opening up, isn't it? It's open up to the right person.
Yeah.
And a lot of people out there, when they're looking for a partner, they say, we want someone, if they're looking for a man, I want a man who is emotionally available. Now, that's all very well and good, but are they ready to receive the emotions that a man is going to project onto them? Because a lot of men contain things for a very long time.
Yeah.
And when it does come out, it can be overwhelming, and some people aren't ready for that. And a lot of women, I've seen this I use social media, saying they're not ready for that. I can't handle his emotions. I can't stand it. I don't want to hear it. I'm not ready for this. Or no, I'm dealing with my own stuff. Well, don't ask for someone who's emotionally available then, because you might not like what you get.
Yeah.
So what's your thought on that? Because it is quite difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I think particularly in this example, like he was showing, like in his body language and his tone of voice, the fact he was almost in tears, like you could hear his voice breaking. All of the signals were there that this is a guy that's going through something. And then she chose to make a social media content out of it, filming and take the piss. And all right, like she said in follow-up posts, that it's their sense of humor, but it's like she chose completely the wrong time.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like she's not used to him opening up, basically. Like you're saying, somebody's emotionally available. But it might be the first time he's experienced something like that in like the 20, 30 years they've been together. And then he's finally reflected on, hang on, 40 years of my life has gone. I've hardly got any left. I'm 2/3 of the way through my life. I'm going to die soon. And like, you know, this is what I've got. This is what I've done with it. This is what I've got left. And I think there is a lot of talk about women's mental health and like how men need to listen to women and what they go through, which I think is great. But the same has to be paid back for men. But I think, unfortunately, as blokes, we're shit at doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's hard, isn't it? Because most of us who are at the age where we're going to struggle, you know, people who are in their 40s and their 50s and so on and so forth, whether from the dying breed of the Generation X and such like, where we're not used to having to be made to feel safe about expressing our true feelings and emotions, because it's seen as vulnerability or seen as weakness or seen as, oh, what's the matter if you sort yourself out, mate, for fuck's sake.
Exactly.
And that's what we're used to. And the minute we do find the strength to open up and be honest about how we're feeling, we get gunned down. And you think, well, I just won't do that again then. I think I'll just suffer in silence. And that's dangerous, isn't it? Yeah,
because then it kind of builds up then to a point. Like, this is why so many men are offing themselves. It's one of the biggest causes of death at the moment. Heart disease and suicide. And heart disease, I almost kind of feel like for a lot of blokes, is a slow suicide. They know what they're doing. And they're like, well, I might as well have fun going out.
Heavy drinking, eating all the wrong foods, not doing all that lot of exercise. And it's just that it's how people deal with things. I mean, luckily we're getting better, but I think it's almost going too far the other way, where people are getting, a lot of men, as we're talking about, men are sometimes a little bit too expressive how they're feeling, and it's devaluing certain elements of mental health, isn't it? It's like, oh, you're correct, you're making me anxious. Well, yes, that's life. Deal with a little bit of anxiety, but my anxiety is being triggered. Yes, it is, intentionally. You fucking idiot.
Like there was definitely a difference. There was a line, And it's kind of like there's a bit of a grey area in the middle of like whether this is proper mental health or it's just human experience. But I see a lot of it on social media of people, particularly from people from the States, where they're experiencing normal human emotions like nerves, anxiety, they're feeling some pressure, they feel a bit down. Like it's normal to have a day where you feel depressed.
Yeah.
Like everybody experiences that. It's about how you cope with it and how you kind of deal with the things being thrown at you. And one of the things that I think there's a lot of reasons why this is happening. I just think that one of them is the way that Gen X and millennials have overcompensated from their childhoods and they've cottonwooled their kids. Like I see it a lot, like, because one of my, before I started my new job and stuff, I was doing stuff like helping students and like doing one-on-one sessions and tutoring them. And I've worked for 15 years in university, being a lecturer and stuff. So I've had a lot of contact with students. And what I've seen over the years more and more is that they rely on either the university to do stuff for them or for their parents. And there's like a forum group of like what I wish I knew before university or what I wish I knew when I went to university. And one in maybe 100 questions on there is from the actual student. 99 out of 100 is the fucking parents.
Really?
I'm like, no, like, oh, my young person has this issue. What should they do about it? Yeah. And it's like either, I mean, there's a lot of stuff from before uni, like advice on applying and stuff. But it even goes up to they're in their second year, they submitted their assignment late or they submitted their assignment wrong. What should they do? Well, maybe your student, like I even write that on some of these comments. Your student, your son or daughter should go to the tutor and talk to them about it. They need to learn these skills. I was like, this is the real world now. Yeah. You know, the university is getting you prepared for a real job. You don't get do-overs. You don't get leniency. They need to, you know.
Well, I mean, I think that I lay the blame solely. I mean, parenting is one thing. Parenting is hard work. Now, parenting has been made easy by having a digital babysitter. So I blame the babysitters now. So I blame the consoles and I blame social media. I mean, give a device to a child and they got the digital babysitter and that's their world. And yet when they get to a certain age, you've got to start interacting with real people who have emotions. And then all of a sudden they discover emotions they haven't maybe discovered before because it's the real world. And that's why they get in such a fucking state because they're not prepared. They're nowhere near prepared. And I think we're fucked. I really do. In a word, I think we're fucked. I don't know how we're going to recover this. I've said, I think my children at the age they are were on the sort of early end of the sort of social babysitting scale, you know, or the digital babysitter, should I say, because I know I like to go on a console and my kids, they go on the consoles and it's understandable, but there has to be a limitation of that. And then you have to, as a parent, introduce them to the real world and let them actually taste what it's like to do, to risk something where the fear of that risk will have actual consequences.
Yeah.
Fucking painful ones if it goes wrong. Like you fall off that log, you climb up a tree, you fall down the tree. They need to develop these skills and understand that actions have consequences. But they're not ready for that, are they?
No, because I remember there was like, you know, all these stories years ago, like people, like they did something wrong and then a copper came up and tapped them across the head, back of the head, you know. And like, you can't do that now. You get done for assault. The copper would get done for assault.
I know, it's absolutely nuts, isn't it? I know our local Bobby, when I was growing up, used to chase us all the time. They knew where we lived. They knew where everyone lived. It didn't help. I lived in the police house. It was probably my fucking neighbour at the time. But so looking at the difficulties of growing up, people getting stressed, people struggling in their environment. And we were going to talk about toxic environments, weren't we? About how that is, how that can affect you. How do you notice it? Is it the people? And so what sort of areas do you think would be good for us to look at? What's most poignant? Do you think the working environment, relationships?
I just think relationships in general, like whether it's at work or because I think it tracks across all of them. Like if it's toxic, it's toxic, and these people do the same strategies, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether you're in a relationship with somebody, whether you're just friends with someone. They can all fuck with your head in the same way, and they do it so like it's almost they kind of get you in two ways. Either it's really slow and insidious, so they like they're really charming. They befriend you. They might give you lots of gifts, or like kind of give too much love or affection. That could be like at work. That could be they take you under their wing, and then
Yeah.
they're showing you the ropes, and you're like their prodigy. Then all of a sudden, snap! You've done one thing that they think is wrong, which in reality isn't, and they turn on you. Or the other way they get you is that they just blow up in such an explosive way that how is this real? And it shocks and stuns you so much, you start thinking it's your fault. You're even gaslighting it yourself because it's so crazy. Like, why would anybody do this? I must have done something wrong.
Yeah. So from my experience, I mean, you've got two people with different, let's say, toxic traits, or from different kind of mold. You've got the narcissistic characters, haven't you? Which, listen, it's a bit of a buzzword lately, but let's face it, they're out there. We come across them. And then you've got your negative people who just fucking whinge constantly. And what I'm seeing is two different things, and I've come across either or, and I've found toxicity in an environment comes from a person.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how would that work in let's say a working environment? What if you've got the boss at the top is the one that's toxic? Does that mean that the whole fucking firm is going to struggle? Because how is it going to work? What are they like? How are they going to treat their staff? And if the staff are struggling on a daily basis, they become unhappy. And if they're unhappy, they're going to moan. So you could be the most positive person in the world and find you going to work with a smile on your face. You get in there and then people are whinging, oh, the fucking boss, he's gone out, he's doing my fucking hell, I hate it. And next thing you find you're leveling with them, aren't you? Next thing you know, you're having a fucking moan as well. I think, hang on a minute, this isn't me. Why am I moaning? And that's how you get pulled in, isn't it?
Yeah. I actually had, I'm not going to say which branch, but like during COVID, I got a job for a bit in McDonald's. I did 1.5 shifts and fucking walked out. Everyone was so negative. Yeah, like I used to work in McDonald's. It was my first job when I was like 16, 17. And I quite enjoyed it. Like, it was a really good store. Everyone was positive. People got along well. There's like a bit of drama, but it was fine. But then, but this store, nobody said a good word about it. The whole, like, everything was a shit show. Everything was mismanaged. And because of my life experience, I was like, this isn't worth it. I'm not doing this for some extra money.
So was that from the top down then? Was that the management creating that environment?
Yeah, so basically the store manager and assistant store manager, they were basically just a shit show. Like the store manager at the top, he was just like quite a brash, negative person and just had like that dour outlook. And he's only had the job. Like, this is my impression I got in a day and a half, is that he'd been there like his entire working life. He's in his 40s. He's worked there since he was 16. And so his life is McDonald's. Yeah. And he kind of just, if you're not like that, then you're not worth talking to, you know? Yeah. And then the assistant store manager, who had to do a lot of the admin stuff, was a shit show. Like, I was trying to get a meeting with him to talk to him about stuff. And then I got one email response, and I tried to chase it up with him. No communication. So I was like, no, I'm quitting.
I'm done. Well, I got an example I found with negativity was when I was in the forces, and we would do duties. We call it stagging on. So those who've served, you know what I mean. So this is before the MPGS came out, the old stagging on regiment. So you go and do a duty. They take 12 of you to cover your gates and your prowler guard. And you would choose who you're going to stag on with, because you do not want to be on there with a miserable prick. Yeah. So you sit there, right? Yeah, mate, we'll stag on. Yeah, me and you. Like choosing the football team for the school team. Yeah, I'll have you. I'll have you. I'll have you. You do not want to get landed on a 2-hour stag on a gate in the ass end of a camp with someone who's miserable and moans all the time, because it is a long 2 hours. And that's when I realized that a person that you can be paired up with can either make your time an absolute joy, or make it an absolute train wreck. And you don't want to. You're literally getting ready to fucking swing from the rafters and start. It's like if you've seen Airplane, the film where there's a guy chatting on the airplane. He's talking to him and pretending about his life story, and it's so boring that everyone is getting ready to. They're pouring petrol on themselves. It's just about to light up, and they're just, please stop doing my head in. So there, the person is what makes a difference, isn't it? If you get stuck with someone who's boring, or not so much boring, so that's the wrong phrase, but someone who is just whinges all the time, it just drags you down.
But ruins your productivity. Like if you're in an office environment with that, like you kind of want to avoid them like the plague. And I think talking about toxicity from the top, like people who are even like, I'm going to use an example once where I was a data analyst for this organization. And the guy at the top, the CEO, like he was a decent bloke. That's the idea I got from him. He was actually quite a nice bloke. But you put him under pressure and he fucking flipped out.
Really?
And and it's just like it was surprising because like I was getting a sense that the guy was like that because I felt like there was toxicity from other people in the organization that you could feel.
Yeah.
And then the CEO wasn't doing anything about it. And then so you kind of, and then as soon as the guy was put under pressure, I was trying to explain stuff to him about data analysis, like what I could do under the law and what I can't do. Like what he was asking me, I literally wasn't allowed to do. And I was trying to help him fix the problem. And then because he didn't understand it, and because he knew how important it was to get the numbers he needed, which he was realizing he couldn't get, then he kind of just blamed me for it all and flipped out, and then just ended the contract on the spot. But I was just like, but I didn't actually do anything wrong. And then it's kind of, but there's no recourse in a toxic environment like that, because if you've got the CEO is the problem, and then you can see it trickles down the organization, that you get a lot of unhappy people. And sometimes it can be, I guess the trick is, I guess the point I'm trying to make with all of these organizations and stuff, is that it's hard to detect where that toxicity comes from, because you need to make a plan for yourself. Like, is this a toxic environment that can be fixed? Is it just something that's going to be around for a little while? Is it a person, or is it the situation? And do I need to look for another job?
I mean, I had that experience when I was in prison, and that's a place you cannot escape, obviously. And when you end up with a person that is toxic, narcissistic abuse, and such, and this person is a staff member, you are royally fucked. So there was a person, and I won't give her name away at this stage because it's still early days yet, but she was a horrible individual, and I discovered what it's like to be under the control of someone who is manipulative, controlling, and outright narcissist. And I've never experienced anything as severe as that, where someone can quite happily cause you so much distress because they've got so much power. Because she was in charge of a department at the time. I was taken on as one of the orderlies, along with a lot of other guys, and all she gave a fuck about was her legacy. That's all she cared about. And she said, "Well, I want to be a strong black woman." I've given a little nugget there, haven't I? I want to be a strong, independent black woman. I want to be successful. And I think that's good. Fair play to you. I'll support that. Let's get there. But her legacy is built on the foundation of prisoners that have been literally exploited to get her to gain her that traction. And if you didn't fit the right profile working for her, you're fucked. You're cannon fodder. And I found this out the hard way. Well, she nearly lost me my day releases because she didn't agree. Because I had my own agenda. Because I was due to get out of prison. I was at like 2 years left. I had my own agenda for my veteran support. And because I was no longer sort of aligning with her own policies, it wasn't anything wrong. She then went full on the fucking narcissist on me. And that was it. She tried to sink me. She tried to get me sacked, everything. Horrible individual. I will name and shame the bitch when the time comes, but I'm not going to do it just yet. You know who you are.
So
be ready.
Was she basically trying to, because I've heard this happen with people, that like, was she trying to force you out to get somebody that fit her profiling?
Well, she liked people to, I think how can I put it? Within this department, and if this is, people don't think, let me make sure this is very clear. This is not a racially motivated comment that I'm going to use. What I'm saying is that she would prefer people of color to work for her. Now, I'm pretty sure there's some sort of indirect or the racism going on there, but that's how it was. And what I found was that if you had your own idea and you're going to be moving on to do something different, she would rather boot you, kick you out rather than you leave voluntarily. Because I don't know anyone that left that department voluntarily. She had to ensure you were sacked, and she had a way of doing it. She would do it publicly. You could hear her literally fucking scream. She would lose control, screaming at individuals that are getting sacked. And I'm thinking, these are guys we are vulnerable as prisoners. We are very, very vulnerable to someone else who's a member of staff, a senior member of staff. Yet she would quite happily use her own, use you to gain her own traction and gain her own awards and recognition and drop you like a ton of bricks. The minute you're no good to her, dropped out.
That's fucking awful. And the thing is, like, she doesn't realise as well that all the other people, the staff people, like, fine, she get all those awards, but the people she's working with will have no respect for her. They'll know what she's like. And the stats will show that, like, hang on, she's the only person that has like 100% sacking ratio of her staff members. Nobody else has the same thing. You know,
exactly.
What's the problem here?
Oh, and well, the problem the worst thing was when she left that department and set up her own business outside of the prison, in the visiting centre. And I'm giving everything away except for her name. May as well just fucking say her name.
No,
I'm not going to.
Just in case.
So she's sort of setting up a new business, and her whole sort of ethos is about supporting prisoners. Yeah. How can you do that with conviction if you're actually using prisoners and dropping them by the wayside in order to achieve that? It's kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It doesn't make any sense. You're using that guy there, and then you're going to fuck him at the drive-through in order to help that one. Oh, you can help that one because that was a person of color. Oh, I get it now. I understand. Oh, now I get it. Yeah.
But then the sacking though, but the sacking though is like it's almost something that means something to her, that she has to enact this pain and suffering on somebody. Like that's the toxicity.
Yeah, and it's not just the sacking, because in prison, if you get sacked from a job, you don't just lose a job, you lose your enhancement. You could get kicked off the wing. So it's not just the fact you lose a job; you could lose everything attached to what that job comes with. So and she knew that. She knew that for what she was doing. So I'm not just going to sack you. I'm going to
ruin your life.
I'm going to ruin you. So so I never forget these things.
Well, that's the
2
thing.
years of license left.
Like you've got to kind of. This is the thing. Is like when you're in those situations, it can be really hard to figure out somebody's motivation. Like there could be no motivation. Like I knew a guy who's in the army, and he got a black mark on his record because he didn't want to play on some officer's football team anymore, and he wanted to quit the football team. And then so the officer put a black mark on his record for it, and then it fucked over the rest of his career because he kept getting turned down for stuff. Because he had like this black mark for no fucking reason.
It's mad, isn't it? People could be really malicious, can't they? Really horrible individuals. It's not nice. It's not nice. But I've come across a few people which are sort of toxic in their own way and how they are and how they behave, but never anything quite as bad as that. But I think it was it was more amplified because of my vulnerability as a prisoner. And that's just news to anyone out there. Just be mindful that these characters are out there, and you might not see them because the signs, if you've been through it, are obvious, aren't they? They're always really nice. They'll do anything for you. They can't do enough for you until you don't quite fit with their own sort of agenda. And then be careful. Same as anything else. Have an escape plan. Have a backup plan ready because you're going to need it.
Yeah, totally. Just have some plates spinning in the background that you can ramp up if you need to, if you lose something. Because like you said, I think this is the biggest, like if you're not in a toxic environment, if someone's like overly friendly, eliminate all the other things like neurodivergence and stuff, make sure those aren't a factor. Because it might just be a bit weird or whatever. But then, like, cause I was talking to somebody once about, because I wanted some advice on like, if somebody was a groomer. Like how do you spot a groomer and like how do you deal with them? And I was like, the only way you're going to spot them, because it's the same thing as these toxic people, is if they're really nice to you. If anybody just feels a bit overly nice and you're feeling too comfortable and like they're treating you too well, pay attention.
Because normal people don't do that, do they? No. Normal people who don't have an agenda would just be pleasant, they'll be polite, and that's it. They won't be buying you shit. It's just fucking weird. If someone buys is say what are you doing? My girlfriend had a situation with someone who was like that, and this person was someone that she worked with, and this person was I hate to keep using the word narcissist, but she was, You find them. And she was buying her chocolate, she was buying her stuff for that. I said, don't you think it's a bit fucking strange?
Yeah.
I said, I don't mind because I love hotel chocolates. So I ate them every time I went round there. Still been to a lot of them, but so be very careful. This is conditioning. She's grooming you.
Yeah.
And she said, no, she's not. She's grooming you. Trust me, because she was a lesbian, the other girl. She's a fucking lesbian. So you could tell that it was definitely going to be, she was trying to get her hands on my girlfriend. I thought, look, you can. So just take the chocolates, because I like hotel chocolates. They're beautiful. They're really nice. But just be mindful that there's going to be an expectation at some point. Just very careful.
I've worked with sex offenders, and then that is one of their tactics, is that they will give something to somebody, and there is an implicit expectation with that. That like one day you need to let them touch your wang.
yeah. Well, let me have a couple of drinks first. Christ.
yeah. And like, and then especially if there's an imbalance in the power, like if they're above you in any way, or like, you know, there is something where they're above you in some kind of way, and then they're giving you things that is highly inappropriate.
Yeah. And I found the same thing in working with the veterans on some of the sex offenders wings, is that you've got your two types, haven't you? You've probably got more than that, but from my experience, you've got the ones that you said will buy you gifts, they'll embellish you with gifts, and they'll give you all sorts of lovely things, or they'll play the vulnerable person needs to be pushed in the wheelchair, and they're weak and they're timid, and they need you, they like you running around after them. And you're thinking, I've seen you fucking walk, mate. You don't need that wheelchair. You're just fucking playing games, aren't you? And it's like that. That's the ones to watch out for. The ones that are reeling you in, and then the ones which are basically giving you gifts and sort of conditioning you. Either way,
the ones that pretend to be the ones that pretend that they need you to rely on them, they're quite interesting, because like if you think somebody's weak, you'll underestimate them. And the next thing you know, you've got a thumb up your bumhole, you know, so you need to be careful.
It's just like, oh, hang on a minute. But you didn't tell me you're going to do that.
Exactly.
I was pushing back as well at the time.
That was totally unfair.
So have we got any other examples of toxic environments and people that, what would you look out for? I know you said about buying the gifts. What about the sort of covert narcissists then? The ones which are less overt. How would someone pick up on that?
Well, I think for them, I kind of think I would look at the way they talk about other people, because they like to divide and conquer. So if you're their best friend, they will start gossiping about other people. And it might be that you don't even know them that well. And one of their tactics to get to know you will be to slag off somebody else. And then as soon as they finished with you and there's somebody new coming along, you'll be the target of the bitching. And then that can have big ramifications, because it can force you out of your job and everything. So
because they're very good at intel gathering, aren't they, on you? So they're getting you to agree with what they're saying, so they can go back to the other person and say, "Oh, guess what? So and so said about you, mate."
And it's their way of doing it, so that it's kind of like it's like the opposite of plausible deniability. It's like they've got you agreeing, so that they can then go, "Oh well, truthfully, like that person agreed with me, even if you didn't mean it. You're just agreeing to get it to shut up." But you just, like, in that situation, you literally just need to say, "Look, I think this conversation's inappropriate. I'd rather not have it, please. I just want to get on with my work." And just do that, and just shut it down straight away. Never have the conversation.
I know that people that are dealing with exes and people in the work environment, is you've got these phrases, grey rock and yellow rock. I don't know if you heard of that one before. No. It's basically, it's a phrase used, or it's a method of communicating with a narcissist or someone that is toxic. And it's basically, if you're in an environment where you have no choice other than to speak or communicate with this person, you can either go yellow rock, which means you speak with them, you be polite, but you don't open up and engage in conversation. You're kind of like, you're just getting through the day. Grey rock is you pretty much, no. It's straight yes, no's. You don't open up anything at all. So it's yellow rock and grey rock is the way to deal with a person.
Okay, that's good.
And it's quite a good thing. If someone wants to look it up, just Google grey rock, yellow rock, and it should come back and it give you the explanation as to what you might need to use. So if you are, for example, with an ex-partner and you have to deal with the kids, you've got to yellow rock it sometimes because you need to communicate. but it's
Yeah.
not giving anything more than you really have to.
Mm.
And that's what I found was quite handy, is because they fucking hate it as well. If you're grey rocking someone, or you just completely stonewall them and say nothing, just go,
Yeah.
mm.
Mm. That's
And
what
that's
actually, looking back on it, because like my stepdad was a bit of a pushover with my mum, but he did have some funny ways of dealing with her. So like when they're trying to sort out stuff about my sister, and my mum's trying to get more and more maintenance money out of it, which he didn't
Yeah.
know. Like my stepdad was entirely in the right with this one. He's not a deadbeat dad. And then he was saying that what you would do, like he would just put the phone down on the armrest and watch Match of the Day, and you could just hear the phone just going for like an hour,
buzzing away. And sometimes people won't even know that you're not listening, because they like the sound of their own voice, don't they? Just rabbit away. What's that old song? But was it Chaz and Dave? Rabbit, 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 rabbit. That song there. I thought, Christ, they're never going to shut up, are they? But yeah, so have we got any more thoughts on that, or should we call that a day on this particular bonus episode?
Yeah, I can't think of anything else actually. I think we covered the topic pretty well. If anybody has any questions or any comments, or just like if you have any stories to share, just put them in the comment section, because we do actually read them. So
yeah, and the thing is, we are still relatively new at this. I do keep forgetting to say, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like, because that does make a difference. We're brand new, we're building this, and what we're going to do is we're going to produce these bonus episodes as often as we can, to stick them in there as often as we can. So we want a bit of continuity. So, it'll be different topics. Sometimes it might just be randomly chatting about anything. But if anyone's got any ideas or suggest anything, drop it in the comments, let us know, and we promise we will respond and we will consider bringing it up if it's appropriate. We'll even bring it up if it's inappropriate. We're just going to choose our time wisely.
It's not like we're monetized, so
no, it's not like we've got nothing to lose at this stage.
yeah, exactly. Say whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, fuckity fuck.
Yeah.
Right, well, on that one, I shall bid everyone a goodbye, and we'll speak to you all again very soon.
Catch you later.